Hi, welcome to Cut and Uncut with Daphne and Bonnie Violet. My name is Daphne and I'm cut.
And I'm Bonnie Violet, and I'm uncut. Here we talk about all things trans.
And then some.
In this episode, we will be discussing transgender politics. Ooh, Baxter liked that one.
A big shout out and thank you to our Patreon members Skylar Bean, Jacob Blankenship, Elizabeth, Danielle Loyal, and Bertha D. Thank you very much for your patronage and hugs and kisses.
Yes, and be sure to watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, and rate us. Join us on Patreon, follow us on the TikTok. Be sure to get your merch. I can't do the uncut side. How have you been, girl?
Just finished the day with work and woke up to a bunch of rain and just, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk to our fans, to our lovies. What are we calling our people?
What's that?
What are we calling our children?
I know we talked about them, the children, at one point in time, but now we're like an official, I think we're renegades. I think people who watch, people who react to Ren are called renegades, I believe.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for keeping me abreast on all of the fanfare. Tell everybody what went down.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I mean, we wanted to do some reaction videos. We felt like it would be good to help us kind of get us out into a different audience, also have a little bit more levity in some of our conversations, to combine with the podcast. And so we did our first reaction video. I think it wasn't, we posted it less than 2 weeks ago, I believe. I think it's been like 10 or 11 days. And, that video has over 2,000 views, which
hell yeah.
It's a lot for our little channel of the,
We'll take it.
We had 30 subscribers 10 days ago. Now we have like 68. So we over doubled our subscribers. And and then we did another Ren video. So we did High Ren as well as Jenny and Screech's Tail. And then now we have a list of probably 8 or 9, if not more, that are suggested by now our subs, our new subscribers, on what reaction videos we should do next. And so I'm thinking we might need to try to do a reaction video once a week and do our regular episode, but we'll have to see what we can do.
Yeah, I think with time permitting, with my schedule, Bonnie, and things, I think that would probably be a little bit more flexible for me. So we can schedule that, and then, at least for my schedule, because I know you're a busy girl with all those, all that buxom going on over there on the side of the camera.
Yeah. And the nice thing about reaction videos we can like record, we could record a few at a time, and then just, have them come out once a week. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. It's been really great too, because, I wondered if, because we are trans, if like people would be like, oh, yay, Ren. And then they're like, oh, these trannies or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's some people that have had that response, but there's also been some people that are like, yeah, but we don't hear as much of that. Like, we hear more so now from like the people, like our comments are filling up. And like there was one of our listeners who talked about how they felt like two of their worlds collided because they love Ren, and also they have a transgender child, and so they were excited to have an opportunity for those two things to kind of merge. Her child is like 17 or something, I think, so they're still in high school, so they're still learning a lot. So that's kind of
well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for the follow-up, and thank all of you for reaching out and connecting with us, because this is what we want. We want this to be for a reason. Speaking of reasons, this brings us to our topic this evening, doesn't it, Bonnie? When you spoke of the 17-year-old trans, what's going on in your side of the world?
Well, when we're talking about politics, today actually, I'm in the state of Idaho, and they passed Senate Bill, I don't know, 668 or something like that. And basically it was a bill that would make it to where no state funding could go toward any sort of trans healthcare, regardless of your age or anything like that. So this would mean like Medicaid could be used to pay for trans healthcare. People who work at universities, work for the state, hospitals, universities, all those places, they also then wouldn't have access to healthcare within their own insurances, or they wouldn't be able to provide services to trans people. And, if they had children that were trans, they wouldn't be able to access their healthcare as well either. So it's really kind of a broad swipe, if you will. That it's so wild because we're such a small group of people, but they're really going out of their way to like make it difficult for us. And I have mixed feelings because I would love to not need help from the government
wouldn't we all, honey?
To live and take care of myself. But there's so many challenges with us being trans as well. Sometimes it's hard to get jobs, especially in like these rural areas. We can't just work just anywhere. It's a right to work state. So I think there's a lot of things that play into the inability or the challenge for us. And I don't think that trans people are unique in our challenge in accessing adequate healthcare. There are plenty of people who struggle with mental illness, HIV. There's lots of other ailments that we can be challenged with in life. And for whatever reason, they're coming at trans people. So it's a little disheartening. The governor could still like veto it or stop it. So we're gonna try it that way, but it doesn't seem like that's really gonna do us any good.
So if I'm following correctly, even people that pay for their own healthcare can still get the care they need because they're paying out of pocket for the healthcare.
Out of pocket, or you can pay or you get like private insurance that isn't through the state.
Government funded.
It's like
state funded. I'm sorry,
job or government job or anything like that. So it's so it doesn't completely eliminate it, but it does decrease accessibility, and it's most likely, just like all these other bills they're passing, it's unconstitutional, and like the courts will stop it, or if they go into effect, they won't go that long. Because like even in Florida, a lot of the crap that was happening last year, all the anti-trans and LGBTQ legislative stuff, a lot of those things have either been undone. Like the Don't Say Gay is like...
Right, I was just reading about the Don't Say Gay.
So I don't think...
They reformed it, as you will. They reformed it.
Exactly. So I really don't think it's going to last very long. I do think it's just like people out of desperation. I think they know that we're not backing down and that we do exist, and there's nothing that people are going to do about it. And so I think that they're just doing what they can to try to stop it. But I really feel like it's the last ditch effort. I think in a few years, we won't even hear anything, about any of this. So
my hearts go out to all of the trans people, children, culture-wise, worldwide. My situation that kind of ruffled my feathers the other day was I was watching the TikTok, which they're probably going to hopefully don't ban. I heard it's going to be for another 6 months. So cross your fingers, because that's my favorite show. And my favorite pastime, past snacks. And there was this trans woman who was on, and she was speaking about, I dare you to stop me from going into a female restroom. And there was this other woman on the opposite side of the screen watching this. And that is exactly what the person said, from what I just said. I dare you to stop me from going into into a bathroom. So she gets on and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop you. But then she immediately throws in there are little kids and little girls and things like this into the conversation. And she was like, and as an adult, there's also adults in there, and we're going to protect those children. First of all, I just want to say, just because we're trans does not mean that we're pedophiles. I want to make that very clear. So that kind of ruffled my feathers to translate being transsexual as pedophiles, because I can recall I haven't seen any trans person that has been, and you can correct me, that has been associated with pedophilia, because I've seen it as cis. Excuse me, I'm not gonna. I like people don't like to say cis, but a lot of it has been people that are in their own skin and their own comfortability that are doing these things to these children. So I just want to clarify that. And then it goes into the comment section. And then they were all going about, yeah, come to this state, come to that state, I'll show you. And my kids, first of all, don't do that. Don't classify a person because of their transgenderism that they're pedophilia. That's not the same thing. And that's where we get this misappropriation of who we are as a community.
Well, and they used to say that about gays and lesbians. And now that gays and lesbians are more, for the most part, they're more accepted, and there's not that sort of, there's still places where there's that mentality, but for the most part, in general, they're not getting accosted in bathrooms, and they're able to get married, and all these sorts of things. So there has been, but they used to say that about gays and lesbians, and now we're just the trans people that they're gonna use that same rhetoric, the same sort of like witch hunty, satanic.
Yeah, it's kind of hurt my feelings. Like, okay, just because she's a little rough around the edges, don't get me wrong, but just because a person looks the way that it does not mean that you can categorize somebody. So that was just my first thing.
I don't know. It's like
about what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't think people really understand it because like I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I know that I don't like read as a woman. Like I know most people are going to look at me and think I'm transgender, and that's fine, and like I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. So like for me as a person, I never would want, so I typically, I don't even use the restroom in public. It's very rare that I use the restroom in public. I always plan to not. I'll usually go, if I go to dinner or go out for drinks with friends or go to the club, I don't drink anything. I figure out what I'm going to drink, and I just don't use the restroom in public very often, unless I'm like in a queer bar or there's like a single occupancy kind of
room. Where you can lock the door behind yourself. It's like a one stall.
And part of that is I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, but also like I know that people are going to read me. If people who do not like trans people or don't want to accept that I am a trans person, they're going to see me as a man. And because men see other men, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot, I think violence is a possibility. And so that's the other aspect, is that I don't want to deal with, the violent, any sort of violent. I'm a very, like, I'm just not a violent person. I don't do well with that sort of thing. I don't want to cause conflict or disruptions that much. So like, I really just want to try to live a life that feels good to me and allows me to continue to grow and be a better person, and even be more mindful about how I'm impacting the people around me. And it's really like perplexing, I guess, that my transness can be so
fear. It's all based on fear.
Exactly. Or misunderstanding. And then part of it is, it's like, why do you have to understand me to have compassion for me? Why do you, like, it's always like when people say like, because in our comments, it's always like, there's always people talking about our mental health, and mental health shouldn't be like on display like this, and they're talking about, and I'm like, even if you believe that like being trans is some sort of mental, like if you want to label it that, I don't believe that. I don't think it's a like an ailment or an illness in any way. It's just how I am. And but like if you want to see it as like a mental illness, why wouldn't you have compassion for that person? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I don't know that people have much compassion for any sort of mental health concerns. Do you know what I mean?
I also wanted to touch base with, I had a coworker today. Sometimes, I don't know, first of all, I'm a very open transgender woman. I speak very freely at my job, and I stand by who I am. And I'm very open about my sexuality, my gender, and I welcome all comments from work. And if, we're comfortable, you can talk to me. So I had a coworker today reach out to me about, first of all, I want to back up and say, I want to give a warm thank you to the younger transgender community who are really making strides and taking these things to the streets. Jazzy J, I believe, and it was Gary Gopacho. Jazzy J is from the TLC network, I believe, and Gary is from one of the, is it Married? 90s, I forget. It's one of those shows where you are single. I had it on my phone, and I wanted to take notes on it, so do forgive me. But anyways, these are two younger trans generation who are open in the celebrity world, and they spoke about, which is coming up March 31st. They were speaking about Transgender Day.
Transgender.
And the story about how Jazzy was a younger
trans girl.
Yeah, help me with my words, child.
That's okay.
Was her mother, I guess this is just hearsay, that her mother was pushing her towards transgenderism. There's a push, is what my coworker was telling me, that there was a push going towards gender dysphoria, younger children being trans, and that her mother forced her into becoming trans at a very young age, because the comment was made that she didn't like her penis, or her penis hurt, or something. So I don't know the whole story about it, but what bothered me about it was that she said that there is this transgender push that's going on in the world. And what are your thoughts on that, Bonnie?
Yeah, that's just rhetoric. That's just people, why do we want, we don't want to bring anybody into being transgender.
Well, for what?
Exactly. But what we do want to do is help transgender people have a better life, a life in which they can feel loved and thrived and supported and good in their bodies, to have a life that they don't have to live in the dark with, or feel like they have to hide from the world. That's all that we want. And I think that's all that's happening, is just people are more willing to say, we need to be doing something about
cultural awareness,
helping trans people have better lives, starting from younger to, to old. Whenever, I know you got to transition really young, and it was not that it was easy, or,
but
you were a teenager,
I was transitioning at 16 secretly.
Right.
And I opened up. For 2 years, I had been taking my sister's hormone pills. And then I had opened up to my mother at 18 about my transgenderism. And I was accepted. But my mother, we had that communication where she was open and honest, saying, I'm going to mourn for my son, but I'm going to embrace my new daughter. I don't know what this journey is going to be like, but please give me time to prepare. So can you wait at least until you're 21 to make any body altering decisions? That is the way the conversation went for me.
Right.
And I wish that a lot more people have those options. Now, me personally, Bonnie, I don't think, you're probably going to kill me, but I don't think that children should be allowed to use any transgender altering medication until they are at least 16 for therapy, 18 if they do decide, and then 21 for surgery. I think that's just what my preference is. So what are your thoughts on that?
When did you start?
When did I start? I was 16 when I started hormonal therapy.
You took hormones, yeah.
Yes, but I didn't know that there was therapy that should have been done beforehand. And before I had my surgery, I had to go through 2 years of therapeutic training.
Yeah,
or gender dysphoria training.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that you and I think a lot of people have had to go through a lot of extra steps that aren't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that people should have to. People should not have. People should get the support that they need to come to the realization, or help people explore more of themselves to figure out who they are. But I don't think that it needs to be a barrier to, like, because you know how it is, like the fact that like my ability to exist is in somebody else's hands to decide whether or not that I'm, and half the time they have to say that I'm suicidal, or that I have, you know what I mean? Like it has to be
that you're narcissistic. Yes, I was diagnosed as narcissistic.
Suicidal, or like if I don't do this, I'll die. And there are those elements that might be true, right? But like we shouldn't have to get to that point. We shouldn't have to get to the point where we can't live anymore unless we transition. Like
I 100% agree with you. Well, I agree with you 100%. Go ahead.
There's nothing happening. There's nothing happening with kids. At most, they're maybe doing a puberty blocker to stop you from like having a puberty that you're not wanting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that would typically happen like preteens, right? Before puberty, and then hormones might happen as a teenager. So it's not like once puberty would start or whatever, you know what I mean? And surgeries very rarely happen with anyone under 18, if at all. Like Kim Petras was one of the youngest persons to get a transition surgery, and she was 18, and that was really young. And so they're not doing, especially like bottom surgeries, like penises and vaginas, but they have done some breast stuff.
Okay.
Like
so I also want to bring this to you. So as you know, children are adolescent. They do not know anything about, much less even how to manage money, much less even their own bodies, and to even realize at which time in their lives that they may be trans or gay or straight. I think sexuality develops at its own time phase. I just don't think that any medication, I don't think that there should be any medication involved in a child's physical change transformation.
What is the age?
Therapy. I think there should be therapy. I think there should be group consultations. I think there should be parenting, and I think there should be options for counseling for both parties, parents and children. But as far as any type of physical altercation to a child's body, I preferably, just me, I'm not saying what is right is wrong, but for me, if I had kids, and I can't now because I had a sex change, but if I wanted to have children, that would have been a thought of mine, because I wasn't old enough, or I don't think they're old enough to even decide now if they want children. Now I'm old enough and I want children, and there's options to adopt. Mm-hmm. But if my body changed before I could even figure out if I like boys or girls, it's too late. I've already started this altercation, and now I'm suicidal. Now I may want to. And
that's a misnomer, though. That's not what happens.
You don't think that's what happens?
No.
I think it does happen more
often than not. Is they're actually allowing you to wait until, like, when they push off the like puberty or whatever, it's really more about allowing you to get to a space where you can make that decision. It doesn't stop it. It just delays it.
Which one are you talking about for the puberty blockers?
They call it a puberty blocker.
So what's wrong with just living in that role without having any bodily
and that's usually what happens. And not all trans people have surgeries. Even
we're talking about children.
But I'm just saying, like, even with young kids, like, usually it's more about like the clothes that they wear, or maybe the name that they go by. It's more social. It's not about anything medical. And even at that, like,
I agree with the social accolation or blending in, but I don't think that the surgery should be, or any kind of medical altering part.
And I think that you should be able to have that choice. What I have a problem
How? When you're not even old enough to even
what I have a problem
drive
with,
a bus. I mean,
what
drive
I
a
have a
car.
problem with, like, you can have that opinion, and if you have your child and you do that, that's one thing. But I don't think we should ever tell any other parent how they should show up for their children. And just
I
because
see what you're
our
saying.
experience
I
of
see what you're saying.
transience was the way that it was for us does not mean that it's not different for somebody else. And so that's the thing that I'm more like concerned about, is this idea that like people are taking away people. Like, no parent is helping their child transition like just willy-nilly. Like, it's a difficult thing to do, anyone. And so like it just, to me, it just seems so ludicrous that people are deciding that they want to get micromanage and get in the way of medical decisions that are being made between a parent and a child. Like, we don't go in and like, I don't know, stop somebody who's doing a, when they're needing to do a surgery for a kid that might end up killing them. You know what I mean? Like, parents get to make that decision. They get an informed consent.
And that's exactly my point. I think that a parent should make those decisions. And when I say that, I'm saying that because parents do get to make those decisions, they may have made a decision that the child just wasn't ready to make. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the right to do it. I just say I don't think that that should be something that should be done for children. Am I making this the same option? Like, everybody should have freedom of choice. My body, my choice. But I just think that children are not old enough to understand what is happening to their bodies, even if they are allowed this situation from an adult perspective. A child doesn't truly know just yet of what they want with their bodies.
When did you know?
I knew when I was 2 that I wanted to be a girl.
All right. But you were 2. You don't know anything about your body. You can't know nothing.
So that's the same for you. You just realized that you wanted to be. How old were you when you wanted to transition?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't come to understand myself.
So what if you transitioned beforehand and then realized I don't want to do this anymore?
That wouldn't have happened. My dad tried to beat the shit out of me when I was a kid. Like, if I would have tried to push it anymore, my dad would have got violent. Like, that's why I didn't fucking do it until I was 40. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about like.
So you knew when you were young that you wanted to transition as a woman as well?
No, I didn't. But you.
Exactly. So what if you did and your parents had let you, and then you decided you didn't want to?
Well, then I would deal with that. That wasn't my experience, and that's not what's happening. There's very few.
I think that is what's happening, because a lot of
there's very few people.
Jazzy was one of them that says that it was pushed down her throat. She didn't want it. Her mother wanted it.
There's much less people who detransition or choose not to transition. There are much more who very few people do that. Very few people detransition. And most of the people who do it end up doing it for more of social reasons, because it's fucking hard to live and exist as a trans person in this day and age, because people are getting in our business about how we are living our lives, regardless of our age.
I always said, my body, my choice, but it ain't my choice until my body is ready and I know what choice I want to make with my body. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it should be illegal to do it. I'm just saying children should not be without the consent, without having that. I just don't think that it's something that should be done.
Well,
we don't know.
Their parents are working with them on that. Kids aren't doing it.
The communication with the parents, having tools to help them all learn and grow, which is therapeutic, which is holistic, which is hanging around people that are like that. Videos like this where we can get together as 2 friends that love each other, talk about these things, parents studying this thing. We're not all the same, but we all don't have the same agenda. I knew when I was 2, I wanted it. And you said you didn't know. And you still don't know if you want to have a whole body experience.
Well, and part of that, girl, is because there was so much trauma as a kid.
Exactly. My point. Children have trauma and they don't even know how to process that part.
Not all kids get traumatized.
Most teenagers are temperamental in general.
Yeah. Well,
we don't know where our head from our ass half the time.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to children, I understand that. And then my friend was also saying that they are speaking. Her son is 9 years old, and her grandson is 9 years old, and they go into school, and a woman comes in with a hand puppet named Bobo, saying that he is, what was the word? What was the term? Bisexual or something like that. So he comes home to her and says, Grandma, what's a bisexual? The bird in school was bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the just the shock from her, and having to explain this to him when she's not ready. He didn't even need to know about it because it wasn't something that was in his world that she was even prepared as an adult for. So that's where I think they're saying that there is this agenda push. And these are heterosexual women that are coming to me, that, and I adore every open comment. I listen, and I'm bringing it to this platform. Like this is what we do. But these are some of the things that people are coming to me with. Like, this is when they say that there is an agenda push. So what do you think about Bobo being in the classroom without the parents knowing that Bobo is going to be there?
So none of this stuff needs to be taboo. There are gay parents, there are bisexual parents. That's the issue. So sexualizing, like, people are sexualizing a puppet when that's an opportunity for people to understand why Bobby's mom has a boyfriend and a girlfriend.
But shouldn't that be Bobby and Mom's idea to have a Bobo puppet at home?
Yeah, but then you go to school, nobody's even acknowledging that you have two moms,
dads,
or you have two dads, and then there's all this like mom and daughter shit, all, you know what I mean? And then you don't have a dad, or you don't have a mom, and many of us don't have dads or moms for a number of reasons. So if anything, it's just helping people be more like comfortable and aware of the different ways that people live at a younger age, so that when it happens later on, it's not some fucking like thing that's done in the dark. And it's just like, I used to teach sex education and teach about puberty and that sort of stuff.
Did you teach it to third graders?
There are ways to talk about things that are age appropriate along the spectrum. Like, these are the same people that will probably have something on TV with straight people making out, maybe even fucking.
And I'm not saying that that's right. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's right either. I'm not saying that's right either.
But they think it's okay. But now they want to decide to have a problem.
But some parents will say, won't watch it, and they have parent and guardian blockers on their TV. So when they are comfortable for their children.
But that's different too. Like, I'm just saying, like, these people, like, I grew up, my dad was like, yeah, tits and ass, like, look at it. Like, my dad was about like, like, and I was, how old? You know what I mean? Like, and my parents were the way that they were. But if there was a faggot, my dad would not be having that. And that's the whole thing. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be seen that way. And that's the problem so
you're saying it's not okay. So you're saying it's not okay to push. It's okay to push heterosexual agenda, but it's not okay to push a transsexual or transgender agenda.
I don't think it's an agenda.
Nobody has, but this is what I'm saying. You're saying it's okay for dad to say, grab that titty, or sex is, this is natural. This is natural. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say that. I don't think that. I think there's an age appropriateness. I don't think that my father was age appropriate with me.
Yes,
but
that is what I'm saying.
He did that or felt it was okay, it was because it was heterosexual.
That's what I meant by age appropriate medication for children.
If he was here, he wouldn't even have but that's I don't agree with that. Like, and honestly, like, I am all for you having that decision.
Yeah.
What I have a problem with is when we create a world in which those other people can't exist or be seen or be cared for or treated in the same way that everyone else is treated. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And
I do.
I think
but
we're
if
for
it's done with loving care and respect and patience, then it should be.
but not
And
all
that's what I'm saying. But that's what we're here for. We're here to educate people that that's the method that it should be done. There should be, but it should be taught to the parents, and it should be educated that not everybody is out to get you. But at the same time, we have these options here that are safeguards.
My parents had every opportunity to teach me and talk to me about sex and queerness, and they never did.
Because it was their choice. You were their child. Mine too. I hid in the closet. I'm not saying that they did. I hid in the closet, but it's different nowadays. And the world has changed since we grew up. Yes.
I think for
you think Jazzy would have been on TV when I was a kid?
No.
No. The only thing that I saw was could have been was maybe El Kabong, and he wasn't even belonging as being, you know, it wasn't something that was being socially acceptable. We are making strides, just like we're making strides, and a lot of things we're just not as strong and as forward as we are. These are things that need to be open communications. I agree with you. I know your blood's boiling over there. You're blinking so hard, your bangs are bounced. But you understand what I'm saying? I did it my way because it was the way that was there for me. But if I'd had what is out there now, I had horizons where I could go out and be a kid and dress up as a girl and do all that. And it was a safe space for me to do that. There was no pushing of hormones. There was none of that. It was just, it's okay to be you. There was no conversation about hormonal therapy or anything like that.
Nobody's pushing hormones. Like, that's the rhetoric of it all.
Well, you just said hormone blockers for children.
Nobody's pushing that.
I'm not saying pushing it. I'm saying like there's
your girl, take this. Come on.
You know what I mean? I don't mean like pushing it like that.
Nobody's doing that. Nobody is pushing this medication or this on anybody. Like, when people go to transition, like, it's a fucking big deal. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that's so frustrating. It's like, it's not, nobody is going around saying, hey, you want to try some hormones? You want to be a girl? You want to be a boy? Like, nobody's doing that shit.
Nobody's saying that.
Yeah, they act like.
What I'm saying is that, but they are there is. What I'm saying is that Bobo is one way that it's not. Didn't happen when I was in school. If there was a mom and a dad, I'm not saying everybody needs to be in a closet. I'm not saying that at all. But I just think that there still needs to be guardships for parents to protect their children.
And parents, I'm not saying parents shouldn't have that, but I think parents should have access to resources.
Of course.
At school,
when I ask for it.
At the doctor, all that sort of stuff.
When I ask for it, yes, I 100%, please.
These laws are working to cut and gut that out of everything.
And that, my friend, is where I have a problem. I'm not saying don't allow it. I'm saying there is options for it. And you said there is options for it, but they're astronomical pricing that I can't pay for. Is that correct to say? Not saying that you can have it, but you can have it, but you got to pay for it.
Transgender health care, like,
yes, there is no transgender health care whatsoever in your state.
No, there is, but puberty blockers and estrogen or whatever tests, they're not expensive, really.
Okay.
They're really
so that is something that can still be assessed in your state.
Probably.
Okay.
Like, it's not saying that
it wasn't there when I was growing up.
Not that it's completely inaccessible, but it's going to make it a lot less accessible.
Right. But there wasn't that when I was growing up. Puberty? What? No, unacceptable. I would get beat up in school just for even bringing up these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they didn't talk about mental health, or
we did not.
Or, you know,
beat my hand up against the wall.
Any of this shit that we need, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just find it, and I'm a little baffled at how people can, it baffles me when trans people can't.
Spit it out, girl. Say what you're going to say.
It baffles me. I don't understand how you could say that you were trans at 2 years old and you snuck and got hormones when you were 16, and that you don't think that people should have access to help them transition at a younger age, that they need to wait until they're 20.
I snuck because I was getting beat up and brutalized, and I didn't have the conversation with my parents. That's why I snuck.
Yeah, but
that's why
I
didn't have those conversations, because there was no options for conversations like that. That's what I'm saying. Had I been 2 years old and my mother said, my aunt let me play with dolls. My mother did not let me play with dolls. But when I was old enough to know exactly what I wanted, I let her know. Now, had those options have been around, because her words were, well, I don't really know what that is. Because she didn't have any, there were no resources. Her idea what a trans was the man on Silence of the Lambs who had the lady in the basket. And this, that was her idea.
That's why people need to hear about trans people more than just what they see on a fucking TV.
Why, exactly.
It's like white people need to see black people.
Times are changed now, Bonnie. There are these things that we do exist, and it's okay for us to exist. So here is a resource for you. But now that you know this resource is here, it's all about education of the adults. I don't think if an adult is armed with something, they know how to deal with something. But if a child does not have that open communication with that parent, they will never know.
Which they won't.
Right.
That's why they should, then that's where school comes in and other resources.
That's where the parent goes to the school and says, this is what my child and I have been discussing. Or this is when the child goes to the teacher and the teacher calls the mother and says, your child came to me and said to me that they are having these gender dysphoria. I want to partner with you as a parent and me as the education person on some resources so we can do this together. That's the way it should be. Not the kid going to the teacher and telling the teacher, and the teacher be like, oh, you don't want me to tell your mom? Okay, well, here's some transgender papers. Read this. I just don't think that that's the way it should be. I think that is an unsafe way for parents to really be fearful for their children without the proper tools.
I've worked in sex education for 20, 30
I've worked in sex education too.
No, like I've worked with teaching and talking people. As difficult as our lives were, there are parents who are even more awful. Thankfully, neither one of us had fucking electric shit, attached to us, because we were effeminate or whatever, maybe we got called this, that, or the other, or smacked or whatever, but we weren't hooked up to shit or there's some pretty shitty things that parents do to these kids. And if those kids don't have help anywhere, that's what this is for. Who fucking cares about?
So if the government can have these resources and let people know that these resources,
the government saying no, government cannot, government should not.
Who says that? I didn't say that.
That's what these people are saying. You've got to figure that out on your own. That's not something we're going to help you out with as a government, as a community, as an agency that's supposedly working for the better good of all Americans. It's ludicrous to me. And why they don't do this with every other group of people. It's all out of bias. Because
little Johnny's got to be a football player, not a cheerleader.
And I don't necessarily know that fear is the right, transphobia and homophobia. I get why people say that. And I don't know that people always have a fear about us. I think they just don't understand us because we're just different than them. Just like I don't fucking understand how straight
people say black people.
No, I can't understand how straight people are happy. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Or could like I don't know what it's like to be like that. So like, but that doesn't mean
walk in their shoes. Like I said, you never know until you walk in one's shoes or educate yourself.
I still can have compassion for people. I can still I don't have to tell them what they need to be doing different in their life. You know what I mean? Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing. Like I don't know what other people, you know.
Let's put it in a alcoholic perspective. Let's break it down to that way for some people that may be able to relate that way.
I don't like.
We're gonna ban AA books, so no alcoholics can get help. And if you do want treatment, you got to pay for it out of pocket. If you can look at it that way, how would people relate then? Oh, well, drunks are no fucking good anyway. They're good for nothing. They don't want to work. They're lazy. They could get sober if they want to. It's just a different, what is it? The same fight, but different, same horse, but different color. Is that the same? It's the same thing. If people just don't want, they pick something. Today it'll be this, tomorrow it'll be, okay, if you're drunk, you can't get treatment. You can't get methadone or whatever. And it's the same here. There is no help. There's no mental health for it. They're not pushing anything to better it. They're trying to ban it politically. And it's a political push for whomever created this political push. Maybe their girlfriend got caught with the I don't know.
It's all their own, and it's all their own like internalized shit. Like it's their own shit. Like what does it fucking matter? You know what I mean? Like what does it matter to somebody else? Like that's the whole thing. And I think the thing of it is like I think honestly, I think people are just resentful because they ain't living a life that they want.
Yeah.
And we are mirrors of people that are living lives that they're like. Yeah, they don't understand. They don't get it. But I don't think that there are more trans people or queer people. But, I've dealt with people that were like I remember when I started doing drag, somebody was like, came up to me and he's like, you just inspire me so much with your drag. Like, I think I'm going to wear color. Like,
stop.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, I mean, there's so many like things that we rob ourselves, so many liberties and freedoms or explorations that we deny ourselves from. And I think that trans people and queer people, to those people, are like, fuck you. Like you know what I mean? They see like a fuck you, like you're not going by the rules. And we've had to give up the rule. We have had to go by the rules, even though we don't like them. You know what I mean? And so then they're mad that we're living our lives.
Well, they're coming for women's health. They're pushing for abortions. They're pushing for, it's not just that.
I know
it's just the system is rigged in general, and they're gonna spin the wheel tomorrow, and it's gonna be another thing.
But I bet you
let me tell you. Let me just finish this point. So, because when I was growing up, like we said, I had to sleep around in the streets to get money to go to a black market doctor. Because we didn't have what these kids have now. We didn't have blockers. We didn't. Our mothers, if they'd have told my mother would have went to the doctor, say my child wants hormones, she'd have been put in jail back then. Now there are options. There's limited options, but there are options.
They're wanting to take that away. And in some states,
I think we've come too far for that now, sweetie.
I know, but in some states, like where I'm at, that's what's happening.
They're trying to put us back in the dark ages.
Although you're not going to have to worry about that at all. Like you have you have other things to worry about. But like there are places worse off than where I'm at. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I still have
other countries. You get killed.
Right. Well, and to some degree, like me being HIV positive is actually going to probably keep me in care when nothing else will. Yeah. Because you know what I mean? Like, because I can get my HIV meds. And
thank God.
But like, and right now I can then get my trans health care because they see that it's connected, right? Like my health is contingent on my hormones, my antidepressants, my I'm getting older, my blood pressure stuff, you know what I mean? Like my hormones are just a part of that, just like anything else. And I don't know, it's so frustrating to me.
You know what my favorite part is of being trans? Is going to see my wonderful doctor at the Howard Brown Clinic with his nail polish on and the fantastic people at the front desk, and they have the form, how do you identify, and you do your history, and then I go in with the RN or MA, and we have these laughable moments, and she genuinely sees me for me.
Right.
I don't have to hide anything about me. The doctor comes in, asks the same questions. How's your hormone level? I'm going to do blood work. Okay, we need you to increase or decrease your estrogen. We're going to do some blood work. You look great, Daphne. Have a great day. That is how it should go. That is my goal for the future of our lives.
And that should happen everywhere.
And it should be able to happen like that everywhere, where a parent can go in, talk to the doctor, or talk to the therapist, whichever level that they're at with the child's care, at every level. Well, we're having this conversation with little Billy, who's 5, who thinks she's a tree. Or we're having these conversations.
Sometimes you sound like those people who don't know us, and who say those things like, oh, now they're going to want to be a cat, or they're like, you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't mean it like that.
I know, but
that's what little kids do. They have imaginations.
I know,
they want to be.
But there's a difference.
But that's what I mean, because that's what they say. Little children have vivid imaginations, but they don't say that
I need to become a tree, and they don't need to they don't be like, I need to become they're not crying over the fact that they're not.
I was making a joke, Bonnie. I think you're about to kill me. Let's take it back.
I am going to kill you.
Sweetie. Calm down.
I'm going to kill you. Because
calm down, Lisa.
Because it's just
down. But listen, Linda.
Of it all.
Listen, Linda. What I'm trying to say is that there needs to be the same level of care for every child, even a child for ADHD. They're fighting for children because they can't even get the proper care for ADHD children. They're not putting enough aides in the rooms for these children that need special attention, and they have to pay extra out of their pocket. It's all over across the board. Our healthcare systems suck. So the more they try to cut it, the more it's going to get more aggressive. And that's just everyday life.
Right. And this is just we're just one small community. And that's the thing that's so wild. And that's the thing that sometimes I get conflicted. Me necessarily, I conflicted about the idea of the government not helping people transition anymore. I get conflicted because to some degree, I'm I don't necessarily, I don't want to live in a world in which I have to rely on the government in order to take care of myself. But I do, and I do because of the way that the world's been set up for me and the way that life has unfolded for me throughout my life. You know what I mean? Because I am how I am. So to some degree, unfortunately, I'm in a position where I need that, right? And so I don't know. It's just weird because I struggle with it too, as far as but I do think there needs to be equal access, and that's really, I think, the bigger issue is why is this separate? And it all needs to be better, but why are we just choosing this one group of people to and it's just the one in the moment? I'm not saying there's issues around abortion. There's there are a lot of other really serious issues that non-trans people are dealing with. I get that. And yet there's so much energy and time taken to come at us when we're a very small community, and really it's not a lot for us. Medical access isn't accessible for most of us, but in the grand picture of things, It's really not that much. It's not that expensive. Does
They
that
just need to get over it.
exactly?
We ain't going nowhere. They don't even know where we are half the time. They're
Well,
speculating. They're speculating who we are. You know, just even pick somebody they don't even know. That's a trans. You don't know.
Right, but the
You
same
don't know who we are.
medication.
So how can you classify people?
It is personal though, because you know there's still going to be there's still going to be estrogen and testosterone and Viagra, which are all gender affirming care that they'll give to cisgendered people or men who need a fucking erection, which is fine. I think people should have access to all of that. But when we want to give it to somebody who's trans, then we're like, no, it's the same fucking medication, and it's like an issue all of a sudden.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's the problem, Bonnie. So what do you think that we should as a whole for our country, just starting with our country, what would you like to see done just for that one particular situation for us, for the trans community? What would you say to someone that was actually listening? What would you want for the people? You have the mic. Wait, there you are. Where's the mic? Go ahead. What would you say?
I think I think just the end of the day, it's just about like, believe me when I say who I am, and don't hurt me, you know, and don't hurt people like me. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. And I don't.
Beautiful. It was very beautiful. I got goosebumps.
And it takes like, and the thing of it is like, we're a small amount of people, and we're people who, to people of power who are just like, we're bugs, we're shit people, we're trash. So we don't matter to them. But people who aren't us, who love us, hopefully love us, they're the ones who really need to start standing up for us. They're the ones who are the only ones who have a lot of power. All I can do is just fucking exist.
That's all you want to do.
The best possible way I can. That's the only way I can really
have the life experience.
Advocate for myself. You know what I mean? And hopefully through that, the people around me will think I'm worthwhile enough to like help out in life. You know what I mean? Like,
I got you, girl.
I don't know. Yes, I'm a little
crybaby.
It's
passion.
It's sad.
Yeah. Well, like us being the same, but in different levels of our lives. I know what you're going through because I've been there, but it was worse for me because at least you're being seen now, and you have a voice now, and you're able to fight for your rights now. So we started the fight. Now it's up to the rest of us to continue the fight, because we're only just getting, we didn't even have Transgender Day, girl, bye.
But trans people have been around forever. We've just been relegated to the dark.
Just like black people, just like women, we've all been around.
I know.
It's just our turn to fight.
I know.
Well, I shouldn't even say fight, but you just stand up for our rights and say, see me, I'm here.
It's our turn to win.
Yes.
That's what it is.
And we will prevail.
I know we will. And that's why half the time I don't even like dealing with this politics stuff. Like, it just feels like a waste. I mean, like, I can't even have, like, I don't know.
Passion, you're about to beat me up across this camera.
It's hard to have a conversation with, like, you about it. Like, like, it's hard enough. Like, I don't have the capacity.
You have it because you just shared it. You have it.
With you.
Well, with me, and now you have shared it with the world.
But I know you, and I know you care about me.
Of course I do.
You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to put yourself in front of people who don't and who aren't even trying.
Well, look at where you are now, Bonnie. You're beautiful. You're glowing. You're being seen. You got breasts, girl. It's all coming true. It's happening. Let the world see those. Hey.
I don't need gas stuff.
Look at you, girl.
I don't need gas stuff. I don't nothing.
Is that pushing the agenda on you, Bonnie?
No, no, no. I mean, I guess, who knows what this episode was like for people, but we had I think, an honest conversation, like what happened.
What happens?
Yeah. So
we never even had this. We didn't even have to force it or push it, or it just came natural. The spirit came through, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So what are we gonna talk about next week? We're gonna plan about taking over the world. Are we gonna do a video?
I mean, I think we need to do a reaction, but we also need to keep because the reactions don't go up on the podcast. So like the reactions work for YouTube, but we haven't had a episode up on the Spotify, a new one, in a couple of weeks. So I'd like to try to keep having one of those come out too. So but we do need to try to record a reaction, because our people are going to be like, girls.
And we also want to invite everybody. We said some pretty serious stuff tonight. Lots of little jewels and tips to make comments, like, share, subscribe.
I don't know if I want to hear from anyone. No.
It was all Bonnie. No,
I know. Obviously, yes. Like, I want to have conversations. It's just so personal to me right now. So like, it's hard for me to not kind of put that aside. So, but I want to hear what people have to say. And I hope that there was nothing, I hope I didn't come across in a way that was, that looked bad.
Confrontational. Yes. We also, let's also put out there, Bonnie, that, like I said, we have heterosexual, homosexual. We want everyone to feel free to come in and engage this conversation through the likes, shares, and comments.
And just be respectful and like authentic.
Yeah. Don't be mean and nasty. We got enough of that in the world right now.
I know. We got most of our filters cut that out, but you don't get to see it, but I still get to see it.
My gorgeous gray eyes don't get to see that. You're so good to me, Bonnie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're good to me. So we balance each other out where we need to. So
yes. And again, I just want to compliment you on how beautiful you are today. You look great. You're truly glowing.
I should have wore something more, but hey, she's finding herself.
She's finding herself, and she's looking real good while she's doing it.
Well, it's been over an hour, so people are probably like, okay, girls, we're done.
Yes. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Join us next week, same time, same bat channel, and check out our YouTube for other content, our reactions, if you're curious about what those are, or listen to us on Spotify.
We love you till you can love yourself.
Right. And love us until we love ourselves. I love myself. 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, 5, 5.